Socialism has not been very successful so far. Supposedly socialist countries have repeatedly been brutal dictatorships that have failed to achieve socialism. Most of these countries have since abandoned any pretext of socialism. Economic inequality is greater than ever before. Capitalist oligarchs have more power than ever before. So what is the future of socialism? I think that socialism is more needed now than ever. Socialism is worker ownership of and control over the means of production. Socialism is economic democracy. Socialism removes power from rich elites and gives it to working people. Socialism is as justified and necessary as ever. That evil regimes have appropriated socialist rhetoric and symbolism in the past does not change this. We need socialism. Capitalism has produced enormous inequality. It increasingly undermines freedom, democracy, and equality. We need socialism to reassert these values. We must learn from the mistakes of the past. A revolution led by a political elite is not the answer. This will lead to a lot of death and suffering, followed by the reinvention of class hierarchy. That is what happened in the Soviet Union. That is what happens when you have a revolution that is led by a small political elite. Revolution in general should only ever be treated as a last resort. Only against a tyrannical regime is it justified. People will mock reform. People will say reform never achieves anything. Reform has built welfare states and workers' rights. Revolution has built a handful of blood-soaked dictatorships. Revolution is not some great glorious thing. It is a brutal and violent event, and it naturally gives rise to brutal, violent people. It should come as no surprise that after a revolution, the most brutal, amoral people are usually the ones sitting at the top. Because revolution creates harsh conditions that privilege these kinds of people. We should be very wary of revolution. At best, it is a last resort, and even then, it must be grassroots. A socialist revolution must be led by the working class and supported by the working class. The socialist revolution must not be hijacked by political elites. Where there is room for reform, we should pursue reform. And there usually is room for reform. Reform can be used in most countries. Reform should weaken the capitalist class and empower the working class. This could mean reforming the tax system, empowering trade unions, introducing new regulations, implementing new economic incentives, or investing in public spending. All of these things can weaken the power of the capitalist class and increase the power of the working class. Anti-corruption policy is also a necessity. Rather than grand command economy policies, we should be focusing on practical, market socialist policies. These can be introduced without total transformation and with far less risk. This makes them far more politically viable. Economic incentives for worker-owned and controlled businesses would be a very good place to start. We can even promote these things with capitalist reasoning. Worker ownership maximizes the power of the profit motive by sharing it around the workers. Worker ownership rewards and encourages hard work by giving workers access to profit. Market socialism is a lot more appealing because it is a lot less risky. Markets are widely accepted. Command economies are a radical arrangement that is associated with famine and failure. We should also be spending more time pointing out the connection between socialist policies and common liberal values. Freedom, democracy, equality, fraternity. Socialism furthers these basic liberal values. Capitalism increasingly undermines them. We should be pointing this out far more aggressively. It may even be time to adopt a new name for our movement. It is possible that the term socialism has been tainted to the point that it is beyond repair. Right-wing propaganda and detestable regimes have dragged the name of socialism through the dirt. It may be time to adopt new terms and abandon the tainted terms of the past. Terms like economic democracy may be the future of socialism. And it is not dishonesty. It is about recognizing that in the minds of many people, socialism does not mean socialism. In the minds of many people, socialism means brutal dictatorships with red flags. That is a devastating miscommunication. We can do away with this simply by adopting new terms that better embody what we really stand for. Socialism has a future, but only if we advance in a rational and considered way. Politics is a serious subject. We must be strategic and logical. That is the path towards victory.